begin with a roll call.
Rob Keller.
Here.
Kim Mills.
Here.
Molly Creamer. Here. Sue Wilson. Here. Ben Metzger.
Here.
Hank Rankin.
Here.
Randy Worley. Here.
And then get into the good news with Mr. Sadoff.
Yep. Well, it's tough to keep up and make it current when I share activities type good news because the seasons go so fast, so much is going on. But there are a few things from activities there. One from wrestling. I know they went and won the Jack Mendenhall Invitational in Ames, which is a big meet for them. And one of our senior wrestlers, Ryder Downey, moved to 151 wins that weekend, which that 150 wins, that's kind of an important milestone for a wrestler. And you know, swimming just put a note there. When I wrote that, they had just beaten Southeast Polk at home, and I think they started the season maybe 6-0 and have been having a really good year. High school auditorium lobby, a couple of pictures that, again, that's a little bit old now, but that's really come together nicely. Note about show choir competition. Again, they've been at West Branch and other places since then, but that was a rundown of Ankeny Centennial and how they did there. Then I had a couple of pictures of Chad Ellsbury. He works for the Iowa High School Athletic Association, and he was down to work with our middle school student council and talk about leadership. I appreciated them making a staff member available for that. A nice little tweet, that's from Woodward Granger Activities. You can read that. You probably saw that on Facebook. And this does happen. You know, we cooperate with other districts. We help. I know we've helped Southeast Polk out before, and I think they've helped us. But they would not have been able to compete that night, didn't have a driver, and I think Casey Hutchinson was the driver, and we're able to help them out, and that was nice of them to acknowledge that. And then one of the last things there, girls wrestling, and this is outdated already too, that I start out saying girls wrestling, while not yet a sanctioned sport, well, the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union just sanctioned it. So, but a neat story there about one of our high school students, Summer Wolf, and really a neat thing to see the boys wrestling team support her, rally behind her, came up with kind of a clever shirt. Matt Tribe, which is a great feeder program for wrestling, helped support her trip up to state wrestling. So a lot of kind of feel-good activity type things and good news this time around.
Thanks, Art. Any board member reports? Nothing. All right. Move on to anybody here to speak tonight?
They're a presentation. I don't think we have anybody from the public that signed up to it. Okay.
And then we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Notably, you see there, and I know I updated you, but personnel recommendations, we do have a Whittier principal to replace our beloved Mr. Johnson next year. Brooke Mendoza coming to us from a Des Moines elementary school. Then you have some other revised consent agenda things on the personnel recommendations.
Just need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion made by Sue to approve, seconded by Mac. Any further discussion by the board?
I might just mention too, there's an out-of-state trip request. By policy, we always put those in here, so I know you'll see them. If you see an out-of-state trip request, you can be pretty sure this is a long-standing thing we've done. This particular one is for DECA students that qualify for the international competition. And a lot of those club-type things, there's a combination of fundraising, some personal expense to kids as well, and that's usually detailed in that application, so that's what that is.
No further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And next we have our presentations from our career technical staff at the high school. Welcome. And Jeff first.
Yeah, I'm just going to start this off and let these individuals speak about their classrooms and what we're offering, but I would just say that, you know, the last 5 to 10 years there's been a big push for work-based learning and how do we incorporate that into our classrooms. Well, I would say with our Career Tech Education program, it lends itself to a lot of those types of activities and bringing in businesses that are both local and in the area. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to have each of these share some things within their departments that help students prepare not just for the job markets, but also expose them to different opportunities within our area and some of the different fields within our career tech education. So we'll start with Ms. Jessica Anania, she's our ag teacher. And we have Justin Hagan, our industrial tech teacher, and Brock Rogers, one of our business teachers.
So one of the things that I've kind of started to incorporate in each of my classes, starting as a freshman with intern AF&R, working their way up on the different career pathways within agriculture. I have them do a little bit of a career study. They get to pick at least 2 careers and kind of focus on them, research them, see their annual salary, what it would take for them to go into that career education-wise, the job outlook, where in the U.S. or nationally, worldwide they would be working, and have the students write a reflection. Is that job for them? Why or why not? Do they have an interest in that? It was kind of interesting to see some of the kids' outlooks on it. Of course, a lot of students had one in particular that they were like setting forward on. Then I told them to kind of find one out of the box, one that they didn't realize was out there. So some of them, they actually found that they kind of liked that out-of-the-box idea and could incorporate that or relate to that even easier than they could the original career that they'd picked. Another one that I have started is an ag business. The students create a career portfolio. This is where the students get to do a research project on a career of their choice. They get to again, go in depth on looking at job outlook, where they want to live in particular, related to if they go into that career path, what is it going to take, and financially, is it feasible for them with a budget. Once they do that part of the research, that's when they get to kind of start looking for jobs. So I have them do some research on some career and job websites. They find a job or find an application, print it out, look at it, and then we start the process of a resume, cover letter, and then I make them fill out a reference letter for another student in the class, and they have to ask somebody to do a reference letter for them. Then they answer some interview questions and go through those interview questions with classmates and kind of get to do a mock interview. One thing I've started for second semester is natural resources. Students are going to have the opportunity to work with Warren County Conservation Board and plant seeds for native species of plants here in Iowa. And one of the ecologists out of the Conservation Board has been communicating with me, and I think it'll be a cool project for our greenhouse.
Cool. Questions for Jessica?
Thanks, Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright. I think some of these things I got hired. So, like Jeff said, I'm Justin Hagens. I'm the industrial tech teacher at the high school. So, industrial tech's kind of unique. So, we have 2 pathways. We have drafting and the construction trades is what they call it. So, in our drafting program, students do 2D, 3D, and architectural. And I try to incorporate industry by, we bring in an architect. He has to talks to the students. His name is Michael Clean. He works out of a firm out of Des Moines. He's also on my advisory council, so he comes in and talks to the kids, as well as I have the students do a project where they actually reach out to either a drafting or a engineering firm, and they talk to them, and they do a research project on it, and then they present that thing to the other students. And so doing that, all the kids get, when you have 18, so you have like 9 different groups going. Okay? So all the kids talked about 9 different companies they do. And so that gives a lot of exposure to the different companies in towns and in Des Moines. We try to keep it as local as we possibly can. Our construction program is a little bit different. So I have partnered with several state level businesses as well as local businesses. As you can see on the list, Miller Electric, the Laborers Union here in town, the Bricklayers Union, Downey Construction, and Vice Construction. Currently, our program, I teach a 4-week pre-apprenticeship class to the students through the Bricklayers Union that I'm certified through. And at the end of that 4-week things, they get a certificate that allows them to become a pre-apprentice. So in the state of Iowa, you have to be 18 to become a construction worker, but OSHA and B have benefits, right? And so at the age of 16, my students are actually guaranteed a job with that pre-apprenticeship. The bricklayer said they'll automatically give them a job starting at, I think it's $17 an hour with full benefits. So that's a really cool thing. They do not have to take it. They are pre-apprenticeship for life in their system, so at any time they want, they can go to the Bricklayers Union and have that job. So we are also partnered with Miller Electric, who provides our students with electrical, HVAC, and plumbing. So they come in and they help our students. We did a 2-week project on electrical. We wired our breaker panels, and they came and talked to the students about that. And then we did HVAC and plumbing. So we had a mock subfloor up, and we tried to put like a toilet on there. Then we also did HVAC, where we did bending pipes and all that kind of stuff. And that was a really good experience for them. And Marty Miller is also on my advisory council, so he gets to come in and talk to the students and experience them. We currently have one student working for Marty right now through the School to Career program, and that's been a huge success. Moving on. I also have a partnership with the Laborers Union, so we partner them to teach the students about concrete work. I sent it to Art. I know you might have saw it on the Facebook page. We poured a concrete slab for the baseball team, the handicap seating at the baseball field. And so I worked with Edward Eli through the Laborers Union up here right in town. They're in the old Lineman's building, correct? Yep. So they're fantastic to work with, and we have future plans to pour more slabs here at the school next year for the tennis team, in between the tennis things, and then we're actually going to build a shed on top of that for them next year. That's in the works. Our other partnerships are Downing. Downing's been very helpful, but with such a large company, we have yet to actually incorporate them into the classroom. They have agreed to do like job site visits and pretty much anything we'd like them to do, but when they work on such big projects, it's hard to incorporate that right now. But they have been super helpful, and they have offered to do about anything that we'd like. Our newest partnership is with Vice Construction. Allison Vice is on my advisory council as well, same as Joe Butler with Downing Construction. But we just got that partnership, and she wants to be really involved, especially with our female students. She wants to incorporate them more into the construction trades fields and all that stuff. So she's really involved, and she's really excited about that. She wants to come in the classroom and talk to the students and maybe help teach a few lessons on framing or whatever it is. But she's very involved, and she especially wants to get those female students out there. So, and those are the businesses that I have that come in my classroom currently. I really try to teach the kids that there is another option for them, right? I tell the kids, like with my bricklayer thing, they have a guaranteed job after high school. So if there are other paths for them, because not every student wants to go to college, so that's why I'm there. So.
Any questions for Justin?
Good job.
Thank you. Where do you hide the drill bits?
The drill bits?
Yeah, where are those?
Top drawer.
Okay.
Top drawer of the toolbox. It is locked.
Thanks, Justin.
Well, thank you everyone for having me here tonight. So all of the classes I'm going to talk about here, there's 3 different ones. I don't teach all of them. The School to Career and the Marketing are actually taught by Mrs. Jamie Busby, so I'd just like to disclose that in the beginning. So first, what I'd like to talk about is the School to Career class that's offered in the business department. So at Indianola High School, this is sort of our capstone for the business department. And what this is, it's split up so it allows students to have the in-class work. And as you see on the handout there, the Exploring Careers, Workplace Expectations, Resume Cover Letters, etc. That allows them to get some of that class-driven content, get them set up for when they go out into the field. So then when they go out in the field, an example that Jamie shared with me was the veterinary clinic. There was a student that went there. They get that real hands-on experience. Because I know when I think back to, the high school days, is that something I'm really going to want to do. So they get that first-on experience, and a portion of the students as well get paid to go out and get that field experience. So, and beyond that, with the School to Career, there is college GMAT credit offered with that, which is down at the bottom of that handout as well. With marketing, students that take marketing at IHS in the business department complete a comprehensive advertising campaign for a local business. So they get to kind of research the local businesses, communicate with them in that real world aspect. And then personal finance is a class that I've had the opportunity to teach here at Indianola. And through personal finance, we have 2 main units throughout the course, insurance and investing. So we actually have speakers come in and speak once students have had a chance to engage with that material. Mr. Todd Lappy from Edward Jones and Mr. Rob Keller from Country Financial joined us this semester and really provided some expertise for the students with that. So that was super meaningful, and it's been really great to see the real world experiences and things that we sprinkle in within the business department. So.
Any questions for Brock?
How do we get you off there? I don't want you in the school.
Am I allowed to come back?
Absolutely.
Semester?
We would love to have
Sorry,
you
Sue.
back.
Oh, darn it.
We'd love to have you back.
So you can override.
So roughly with personal finance, we see about 50 to 53% of students in the high school by the time they get from sophomores to seniors. That's roughly what we see in personal finance.
I was able to go into each of their classes here just a few weeks back. I think, was it at the beginning of the second semester, or end of first semester there and stuff. So I loved visiting those classes and stuff because it was the hands-on stuff and the things that, you know, some kids that are not maybe college bound but that are ready to go into something that can really get into. And these are three great fits, I feel like, for each of those classes and stuff. All of them that work in that department. Even the food service, I didn't get a chance to meet her because she was teaching at that time and stuff, but you guys have a great department, and I feel like you guys really mesh well together, so
Thank you.
yeah, keep doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks for your guys' time tonight.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay.
Robert, so they're all under one department. How is this like, is this all our?
It's all career technical. We have family consumer science as well.
Under there too.
That's our fourth strand, yep.
And so is that where some of the culinary stuff?
Yep.
Okay, so then where does like all the DMAT classes fit?
Yeah,
Like, is that
well, that's,
mainstreamed under?
it's in the same area, except as a district, we have to offer 3 sequential units in 4 of the 6 strands as high school credit courses. So the DMAC being concurrent enrollment can't replace that, but we have all kinds of occupational ties in the Career Academy as well. So it would definitely fall under that large umbrella of what are you doing for college and career readiness, but it's not within our high school 4 strands.
So right now is the bricklayer, is that one of the only certificates we're giving, right, like that the kids can get? I'm just asking, because when I was
Yeah.
at that school board thing, I went to listen to the school in Omaha, Council Bluffs area, where their goal by like 2028 is for every kid to graduate with a diploma +1. And so it was this whole thing that they had worked out with their local community college, and it was really quite an interesting mix they had, and I mean, so that's why I just asked.
Yeah, now I don't
Others are
know.
walking out
There could be
roads.
kids that, oh, go ahead, Jeff.
So there are, so in the culinary arts, there's a Safe Serve certification
Okay.
that that instructor will introduce to students as an opportunity to get a certification. And within the business department, they do a Microsoft Word
That's right.
certification.
And those are careers that they can go out and get, just like the bricklayer, like those certificates help them.
So
Make that
those
step into the
certificates
career.
would show their knowledge of a specific interest or skill within those fields.
Are there certain areas you at the high school want to build this out to, include other certificates and?
Yeah, as we talk in our advisor, we talk about other opportunities, what we might bring in. I could tell you, like within agriculture, we talked about applicators licenses, and there are some limitations on what we can expose students to as far as what we can actually teach. But on the other hand, one of our goals with our last advisory meeting was to at least share the information with students to say, hey, if you're looking to go into ag, these are certifications that you might be interested in or that you might want to seek out depending on your career choice. So like the applicator's license or a welding certificate, whatever that may be. So in some situations, if we're not able to offer it within our walls, we still want to expose students to what some of those things might be that they could easily get their hands on.
So when parents, sorry, Tim.
I would also add that within the hospitality course, we're exploring some for that too, and that'll be part of that advisory meeting this spring, if there are certifications within that.
So when parents come and say, well, we have nothing for business and marketing, and we have no budgeting that goes on, where on the website do I direct them? Is there a seat Is there a career and technical education section on the website that can show all of this stuff?
So within our course handbook, everything is laid out within each of our career tech departments, but as well as that, there's the career academy
Okay.
information that's on there, which
Okay.
houses some things with criminal justice and also some concurrent enrollment that would be tied to business. Our welding programs are within the career academy. There's an auto tech program, and then there's also a nursing
Okay.
program that students could tap into if they want.
Perfect, so career academy are kind of the
Yeah.
keywords. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
My question is, as you look at, I assume that all three of those teachers have, folks from other schools that they reach out to, and you probably get feedback from them, and they talk to their counterparts, and they say, this school's doing this. Do you feel like where do you feel like we're at with offering CTE exposure in Indianola?
So I think in the last just 3 years, I mean, we've come a long ways within what we're offering and what we're exposing students to. I think when I was hired, I would say we had a very loose connection to work-based learning, and now we're making sure it's incorporated into each of our programs and within different classes as well. But then we've also added a school to career program itself, which is new this year, which I think will grow fairly quickly in the years to come. So I think we're on pace with a lot of other districts right now, and I think we're ahead of some other districts as well with what we've offered. And I think we constantly are looking at how can we improve that, what are our student interests, what would we do to change our program so that we could get more students in them. That's part of the conversation that we'd have with the advisory committees as well as the conversations we have within our departments. So I think we're on the right track and we're continuing to improve each year.
Thanks.
Anyone else, any questions for Jeff?
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jeff.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
All right, next is the curriculum committee meeting report.
So we usually give the board members who are on that committee an opportunity to kind of update other board members if one of you want to talk about that meeting.
Yeah, okay. Mrs. Jerome, sorry. Just kind of educated us and updated us on a couple of things. Kind of what you've been feeling here on career and technical education programs. It sounds like maybe some legislation maybe passed here soon requiring that in some degree in high schools. And so, do we have a coordinator? Are we getting a coordinator for this?
Jamie Busby is that multi-occupational coordinator at the high school.
Work-based learning coordinator that's going to probably build a program where kids starting in 8th grade, it's 8th through 12th grade, would have a plan built at that time that then the counselor would help those kids progress through their school year to fulfill this legislation. Well, even if it's not legislation, I think we're just trying to get ahead of it because it's such a great idea. Is that?
Right. So it's been enacted for many years that we have to have a career plan for every student, 8th grade through 12th grade, that helps them outline their pathway to graduation. And within that, we were just having that discussion about making sure that we are including these career-based opportunities for students. And when we take a look at this spring, there's a new requirement that we actually submit a district career guidance plan to the Department of Education. And so that's what the counselors are working on now, including the CTE staff, not only to map out what's occurring in their classes, but across our classes 8-12 to integrate career information for all students. Because we know that not every student might take a course in these areas, so we want to make sure that's mapped out within their plans. And so in the notes there, that was a kind of an overall review that we talked about for that system of not only having our coordinator at the district, the development of the CTE courses, how the guidance counselors are now involved with their new Zello software to make sure that we're looking at kids' interests and building their career plans for them from 8th grade through 12th grade. It isn't in legislation yet, that we would have to have all high school students participate in a work-based learning experience. But that is something that could come at some point. So whenever from 9th to 12th grade, are we keeping track and ensuring that we're getting a quality experience?
How many counselors do we have that are working on this with kids? Because that's a pretty big job to get.
So we have 3 counselors at the middle school and 3 at the high school. And so that's a part at the high school where they split them up by alphabet and by grade level at the middle school. So a lot of it is also through the Zello program, where every student can log into their own account and do different types of the surveys and interest things. So it doesn't always have to be a one-to-one, conference, although we really encourage that for the kids. So they can go into a classroom and do it holistically too. And the high school too is also looking at how can they accomplish that through their advisory times.
Thanks.
How often do or would you think the counselors would also let the students know, especially in the 8th grade level, but all the way through senior, letting them know it's okay if this isn't the road you end up going down, that you may make another decision, in college to change paths or I just hate to get somebody focused on one thing and thinking that's what they're supposed to do at 8th grade, and then they realize, oh my gosh, I was talented over here, I have a passion over here or something.
Yeah, and truly the focus is more about what are your strengths and things that interest you. For example, do you like to do things outdoors?
Okay.
So that might be something that you would head into. Are you someone who really dislikes public speaking? Just to be thinking about those things in terms of all the careers that might involve those strengths, and knowing that kids also change and can be dramatic,
Sure,
but at least are you on some pathway to ensure you get your credits for graduation and you're learning about yourself so that you're in a good position no matter where you might want to take that.
The second thing we kind of learned about is the school profile reports and kind of the formula behind the reports and all the data that's gathered and then shared with the schools, allowing administrators and teachers to kind of analyze the data and then draw up a plan to improve upon. And we'll cycle through these reports in a couple of years.
Yeah, so approximately every December, the Department of Education will release those school profile reports. They take the data from the conditions of learning, and those are like the student relationships, student-staff relationships, the environment surveys. They take that data, our Iowa assessment data from our students, the ISAFS data. They look at student growth, our graduation rate, for example, our students that have IEPs or have English language needs, are we closing their learning gaps and keeping them at the same pace as all students? So those reports came out in December, and the building principals currently are digging through their data, looking at those, and we'll take a look at that in addition to other data that they have to start formulating goals that will then help to drive, okay, what types of professional learning do we need? Are there other things that we need to look systemically in the district to make sure that we're providing a really high education for the kids? So we just kind of dug into what those reports, what that looks like on the site, and how you can search any school in the state of Iowa, any of those districts, and do comparisons too.
What's that website?
If you just type in and do any kind of Google search for performance profiles for Iowa.
Iowa Performance.
I could send you the link too.
Cool.
If you'd like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. Anything else on curriculum? Thanks, Ryan and Annette. Let's see, next is the monthly financials.
You'll find it, the information for December. You'll notice that we've seen a big jump in, from a year ago to now. This last month, even in the chart that shows the cash flow, we received our, the surtax that we get 3/4 of it now, so a big chunk, so that's a big jump right there. So that's probably what the question is, because that was quite high. So I try to see where our increases and decreases are throughout. But as you look across the different funds, does anybody have any questions? I don't have any, nothing's jumps out. The one that probably is kind of, if you look at the ending balance, it doesn't really reflect it, but you'll notice that in the debt service, in the first balance sheet report and then the budget report, in last year, we did a bond refunding, so that books, it's in and out, but it shows as an increased expenditure and increased revenues in the December of 2020 in debt service, number 40. So you'll see that is, of course, by the end, it nets out about the same, and we're consistently watching that. I'm kind of watching our self-insurance fund, because this month is kind of the first month that we've seen our expenses exceed our revenues, which is interesting, as we watch what's going on. So we're still balance-wise fine.
Just track what those are, what the cause.
We can get high-level
Yeah.
information. Shelley does a lot of that for me, and I can have her look that up, but I know that some of it would be what we're dealing with right now, probably.
Okay.
So,
I was wondering if that might play a role into that.
and I can see if our broker has any kind of report that she does, that she can do for us, that shows, here's the top 5 things that we're seeing. So, yeah, I can do that.
Any questions on the monthly financials for Jonna?
No, my only comment would be that would be interesting, because as you think about requirements that are made, the requirements that have been made for all businesses, including mine, create a routine event that you have to go and do to either demonstrate that you're good to go to the workplace or you're not, and that consequently incurs, in some cases, people doing an office call, which would rise that number up.
Right.
So it would be interesting to see, I guess my point is, it would be interesting to see if that's like office calls, or if that's like ER type costs, I guess is where I'm going
Well,
with that.
in our world, we call that unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is, this is what you need to do now, and you have this expense, because being a self-funded account now, that hits our bottom line.
Right.
So when they say
This is
there's,
the first and only month we've had that happen.
well, that I've noticed, maybe early on we had a little bit, but nothing that was so marked, and this isn't market, but it's just a note, that I'm just kind of watching, so.
We just. A motion.
I move to approve the monthly financial reports for December 2021.
Motion made by Ben to approve,
I'll second.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board on the monthly financial reports? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the SBRC application for special education administrative costs for Grant Wood.
We have a student that has attended, he's exited the program now, and he's not in our district anymore. His family still is, so we will be seeing some other expenditures there. But we are able to recoup, again, it's $3,152.26. It's not a lot, but this is one of the examples of, we try to ask for anything we can with the allowable growth, that can give us more budget money, or budget for our, so we can move, it's a special ed expenditure, but it does allow for an increase in our budget, in our unspent budget, so I request that you approve that.
I motion that we approve the SBRC amount of $3,152.26 for Indian Knolls portion of special education administrative costs of Grand Wood.
Motion made by Sue, seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the board finance committee meeting report. It was, let's see, Tim Mack and myself. Oh yeah, we talked about the preschool lunch deficit. That is something that we would that our group felt like we would move forward to the rest of the board to go ahead and try to get that stricken, because it's been on there for so many times and we keep.
So it's
getting
preschool
hit
funds to be
from the
paying
audit.
off the deficits for the lunch accounts.
That falls under the flexibility that districts were given several years ago. If you have carryovers in categoricals, they can go into what's called a flexibility fund, and then you can use it for other purposes. So we do have that surplus in preschool right now. Plus, John recently found out will be, because of increased enrollment after the first pandemic year, we'll be getting another $79,000 of preschool funding. Which is that reflected in this total amount here, John?
No, it isn't.
That's on top of that.
Yes,
And John estimates that our negative unpaid lunch balances right now are in the
$36,000-ish.
$6,000 range.
Yeah, when we decide to do
From
this.
70,
Down from 70, yeah, something.
So we've been making progress, but as we've said here several times, this is a negative audit comment every year until we get it cleared. And it's been difficult. We do get donations for this that we apply to that, but it's one of those things you just chip away until finally, if you have the money in the flexibility account, you decide you want it off the books. I think that's kind of where John is at right now, and it'd be nice to get rid of that.
that's not a motion.
Nothing, no.
Is the public informed on this? And I say that because I saw in the reading that, it goes out there, a notice for public hearing, all that, for public comment, all that kind of stuff. Are they familiar with this process? Do they understand this?
Probably not. It's relatively new, probably in the last 4 years, maybe 5 years.
And we didn't do it right away because we have been, historically, we've spent our categoricals on that. We haven't had a lot of carryover. And then where this really cropped up first was in our, some of our professional development funds during the pandemic. We were not sending people out for training, and that accrued, and we repurposed it for some curriculum work. So I think is that the only other time we've used the flexibility?
Right now,
So this is just the
will be
second time
yeah. So it's really, it happens in other districts, maybe they do it every year. They'll say, if you have any funds left over, they'll clean it out. But we may be planning, like for the preschool, you see that we have close to 300,000.
Right.
What the preschool has to be kind of self-contained, and so one of the big items in their realm would be their playground, which is, if you go over to Whittier, it's a separate playground, fenced in, and so if we ever want to do anything with the playground, it should go through that. And so that kind of is what I'm, in my mind, thinking that should be expended for. Because now it'll just, if we continue to, go like we used to, it's gonna use it up, it's gonna, in and out, kind of, for the preschool.
But just the thoughts that are going through my head is it makes common sense, right? I mean, to get rid of that audit item, and I assume everybody probably thinks that way, but sometimes the public hearing lends itself to be kind of intimidating, or, when it goes out to the public, and I wanted to make sure that we think through, the talking points that go along with that in the case that anybody on the board gets a question, what's this all about, whatever, we can kind of talk through that. It looks intimidating at presentation, but makes a lot of common sense.
Where do we have to post that public hearing? Is that in the paper?
It has to be in a paper of general circulation in the district, a printed paper, so it has to be the Record Herald, which,
So and then when is that public hearing, Jonathan?
we haven't set it yet,
Okay.
because I was waiting to hear from our auditors to make sure that their number is what our number, 37,000 was where we were last year at the end of the year, and we're a little bit less than that, not a lot. Like Art said, we have received a lot of donations, but that's kind of dried up because lunches are free.
Right.
So these are carryover balances that we're dealing with. So
And when are lunches due to go back to normal?
we've
When
not
is that?
heard that.
We haven't heard yet, okay.
I mean, they've announced through this school year.
Yep, and through this summer, and then
Next year. But
it's 2 years without. I question whether I was talking to our food service director today, and she was telling me that each meal is reimbursed $4.50. So that's what we get for every meal. So she's needing to buy a freezer or something, and typically that doesn't happen. We have to be careful and plan for those things, and she's been able to afford some of that, those things that as she needs them.
It's
So
interesting, because when we had all those USDA food boxes that we were distributing, one of the mentions up federally at there's a United Nutrition Committee or whatever, and their comment was, if we continue to provide lunches free nationally, breakfast and lunches free nationally, we don't see the need to continue this USDA farmers food boxes. And so that leads me to believe, unless they're gonna come up with food boxes, what the future of school breakfast and lunches are, because they don't have any intention of bringing the boxes back at this point, which now our numbers are higher than they've ever been. So it's interesting. I'm wondering if they're gonna be, those two things are gonna be linked together. Whereas if they decide to keep them, all of the lunches, schools lunch free, then continue not to provide anything.
I think
Both federal programs, so.
right,
Yeah.
the longer they go with this, the harder it's gonna be for them to say, okay, now you're gonna pay. And yeah, that's what I see as being an issue. One of the unique things about this is we have seen some increased deficits in our lunch counts because kindergarten milk costs. It's not free. So of all the things, and it's like 40 cents a day. So one of the things that many of the schools around us have done is gone away or just give water rather than milk, which my food service director is saying that's maybe a possibility as we look at going forward. It's very confusing to our parents because, well, it's free, right? So it's hard to reach that.
Okay, so this is gonna sound dumb, but do they pay for the meals ahead of time before they're consumed? Or do they pay after the fact?
They, as in the feds?
Parents.
No, nobody pays right now.
Nobody pays for meals right now.
Okay.
So in the
But in the
past, they'd
past.
pay ahead, they'd have a balance, they'd say, if you put $100 in, then you just, it goes down as they clock it in. So typically they've asked, and we've allowed for a $25, you can go up to $25 deficit. And after that, you're supposed to be paying, but I think that there's been a little leeway, grace maybe, for the pandemic situation that we're in, so.
Have Abby sometime present to the board, just 5 or 10 minutes,
Sure.
just on the program. and,
Absolutely.
how she sees it going, how many kids are utilizing.
She's seen a market increase at the middle school and the high school.
Yeah.
And even participation in the elementaries as well. But she's trying to change things up, for different meals.
Yeah, recently we heard 550 at the high school, and just earlier this year, she had cracked 300 for the first time, so it's really been growing.
We got 1,200 kids, or 1,100, 1,200 kids,
Yeah.
so not a great participation if you look at the whole building. I think it's about 50% at the middle school. So,
Yeah, we can definitely have her come in for a presentation.
Moving on to the next thing we talked about, Travis Squires from Piper Sandler came in and spoke, and he's the guy that helps us with all of our bonding for the district and has helped us bond with, worked with Jonna so that when we've had those opportunities to do refinances, we've been able to do them and save the district a lot of money. So he presented on how much would we have available in bonding capacity for the future for our high school project and stuff. I think Art and I were thinking it was going to be a little higher and stuff, maybe just with what we had heard maybe from the.
Yeah, I don't know, Rob and I are trying to decide where we heard it.
Yeah.
We both had a similar number of about 90 million bonding capacity in mind.
That's what I heard too.
So
It's not that much.
So now the bond expert, did explain to us that outstanding sales tax bonds are deducted from the total amount. So maybe the number we heard didn't deduct them, I don't know.
So we'd have about 70,000 available for bonding.
Yeah, it's actually
70 million.
I
She-
was gonna say, that's a big difference. 70,000.
Yeah, wouldn't that be?
Well, we can build a bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah. A toilet. 70 million available in 2024, but then we would need to wait until about 2027 to have 25 million additional, 28 million additional in 2030. That's if, you know, everything carries out with valuations, and he kind of projected, I think correctly, and in line with what's happening in the markets and stuff for real estate valuations. But yeah, so just so the board understands that, that's 70 million we have available for 2024, and not another 25 million until 2027.
2027?
And we did talk about the fact that this is coming up in different districts where
Yeah.
these outstanding save bonds counting against your debt limit, even though those are general obligation bonds, you know, that you would vote for. Iowa law actually says that they don't count against it, but it's never been challenged in court. So the bond people and the lawyers are taking a conservative stance that until somebody challenges it and gets a ruling, that they're just going the conservative route and counting it. So that was kind of interesting.
If we did have that, we would have about 90 million.
Yep.
Because I was gonna say, that when I was in finance, that's kind of what we were talking about, so, yeah.
In general obligation bonds, it's what goes for a vote, whereas the sales tax bonds, it's board directed. And it's taxpayer dollars versus sales tax, so it's two different revenue streams as well. So it's quite interesting that it is put together, but
We have to keep that in mind as we move forward with the high school project, big time.
Well, we talked about doing it in increments, maybe something,
Right.
and there's like 28
May
million,
force
62
itself to
million.
have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was in 3 different stages, I thought, but.
Yeah, well, we
Yeah.
talked about that, and then also just the fact that, because what Travis kind of presented was like, hey, you know, there's a cost of waiting, you know, 2 school districts. I mean, there's a cost that, you know, building prices are gonna go up, or building prices are already high, you know, continue to go down a little bit, but, you know, interest rates are gonna go up and stuff, so, that's what could happen with that legal case, if a district ever decided to go down that path and say like, hey, this is the law, we're gonna go ahead and do this and spend that money.
The caveat to that was, if we did elect to go that route specifically before Art was finished with his term, the Iowa School Board Association would potentially pay the legal fees if we were ever challenged. And Art wanted to go that route, right? Sooner than later.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so let's hurry up and get a large bond issue out there. Yeah, well, you know, it does seem like a pretty fun thing to miss out on. But, yeah, but Mac's exactly right. ISB, because this is such an issue for member schools across the state, they are interested in, if there were a test case, in being supportive there. That's a good point.
For a second there, Mac, I was like, gosh, I didn't really know what site. I was like, oh crap.
It's not the first time I've had words put in my mouth.
He knows more about you than Rob does.
I was like, oh, I'll step aside right now.
Hey, John, just to backtrack for a second, you have, to School Board for Action, do we need a board action to approve a notice of public hearing? Do we need any action tonight?
we're not doing anything with that. That's just more information because we don't have the dollar amount yet.
Right,
So
okay,
it was
so
more
sometime
just-
in the future it's
that we
coming.
will- That's what you'll see, pretty much. That's the
Gotcha.
language you'll see.
And then the final, we went through the sales tax budget and PEPAL budget there. And we have the money in there now for our administrative.
To show that, to
Support
prove that,
services
to
bill.
prove that we could do it at
Right.
the dollar amount that was projected.
You guys have the numbers, or when are the numbers
It's an
coming?
estimate. Bids wouldn't be till March. We won't, I mean.
Yeah, we have an estimate, but the people too who helped formulate that estimate said that it's likely that on bid day, there could be a discount, or it could be a little better than the top number we've heard. We certainly hope that, because the top number we've heard would stretch the budget a little bit. And, you know, as John has said, we've been budgeting for it, we can do it, but we also want to keep as much flexibility as we can in our capital projects funds and not just spend them down.
Yeah.
Several years ago, we had an unexpected $1 million expense, you know, when the Irving HVAC went out. So, it's nice not to have to be just right on the line, spending every penny you have there. So, but we really feel like as far down the road as we are, as much planning as we're doing, we need to proceed like we're going to go to bid. And then, who knows what happens bid day. When I first came here, we were bidding several projects. We were doing 5 projects actually that first year. And the electrical trade was really tough to get because it was the same time that they were building some of these big data centers and people were so busy. So we got just one bid on an electrical package and it was, I think, maybe 40-50% higher than we expected. And we just had to hit the pause button and rebid and work with our, at that time, construction manager and architect and just say, hey, can you guys beat the bushes and try to find some more interested people, get some competition. Competition's a really good thing on bid day. So if you have a single person bidding, they can, kind of take a chance at marking it up, having a premium.
So will we we approve the bids once they come in as a board?
So,
Yes.
so what'll happen at the February 8th meeting, we'll have, set the public hearing to be at the next meeting. And then probably you'll see the plans and the specs for the building at that point. Usually it's about 90 to 95% complete. It's because they're finishing up the last pieces of that. And then in March, we would approve a package. The interesting thing about this, and I don't know, I can't remember if we've talked about this here, but one of the things that we're looking at is the concrete panels that are, the walls will be concrete panels. And the architects are telling us that's close to a year out. So once we bid this, we wouldn't start right away because you wouldn't need to, So that's an interesting situation. So we would have, so again, we're going to carry those monies forward in the physical or in the PEPAL and the SAVE budgets to be able to pay when we finally get to move dirt and build a building.
But even with those long lead times, assuming we get bids in that we can afford bid day, we'll want to get the order in, even though we're not going to break ground right away or work on it right away.
Does that affect the other contractors, the other subcontractors on the job, like knowing that it's a year?
No, they'll have a timing, they have like a schedule, a project schedule.
The time.
And so that's, the last piece, we'll be talking with them, between now and the next meeting, which is in the next couple weeks, to see what their project schedule is.
So let's say this thing goes back and it's like crazy bids or whatever,
We can reject them.
we can. And
Yep.
do we reject them?
Yes, the board.
Okay,
Yeah,
that comes.
We'll approve the hearing, we'll go out to bid, it'll be out there, for a month or so. And then we'll receive bids. I think we're set to receive them March 1st and our board meeting's March 8th. So there'll be time to review those bids and the architect will then look at the bid tab, make a recommendation to the district.
Okay.
We'll bring that to the board and, and that could be, accept the lowest responsive bidder.
Yeah.
Or it could be, if it just doesn't look feasible at this point, you could move to reject the bids.
Okay.
So.
2 questions. First one is, does it only get announced here locally? Or what does that out for bid look like?
No,
There's plan rooms that they send them out to. We put it on our website, not that people look there per se, but there's different I think Master Builders has a plan room. They send it out to all their contractors. A lot of digital information moves now, but the plan rooms are the ones where the contractors are looking.
and we do get bids from different cities. There's a mobilization cost, so the farther they're coming, the more expensive it is. But it's not uncommon to get bids from, Urbandale, Des Moines. There've probably been places, farther away than that.
Yeah.
The second question is, do these kinds of projects routinely attract local folks?
Typically, we do have a local contractor here in town that typically is the lowest responsible bidder.
Yeah, we have worked with a local firm multiple times the last 8 years as general contractor. Yeah.
That's it on the financial meeting. Facilities project update.
There's not a lot to report right there. We are still waiting just on about the last 2% of the high school auditorium, a few acoustical panels, tiles. That auxiliary services building, we've just kind of been talking through a little bit of that. We had originally were shooting for tonight to act on the plans and specs for bidding. That's gotten bumped back a little bit to our next meeting. The bidding window then correspondingly probably will get
It probably is
moved
gonna
back a
happen.
little bit as well. But we're still hoping to have bids at a March meeting. Part of that, knowing that we're gonna have a year lead time on some of those things too, how much do we need to rush, I guess is the question. We do still want to keep the project moving forward, but that's where we're at. I don't have the high school renovation task force dates in there, but I did just recently get a series of meetings, kind of one per month for the next several months, that Envision put out a survey to members what days work, and I know they're having a catch-up meeting in there for task force members that missed a previous meeting, so that is picking up again here, with the thought that, and again, as Rob said, we have some questions with bonding capacity and things, but with the thought that if the district is ready for a September vote, that we still will have enough community knowledge, outreach by then, and that this task force will be prepared to give the board a recommendation leading up to that. So I don't know if that'll be the decision we land on. It may make sense to shoot for a year from this March versus next September. There are a lot of factors that go into that. What's the mood of the community seem to be? What's our bonding capacity? What kind of plan have we arrived at there? There just are a lot of unknowns right now, but still we need to keep moving that process forward. So we're also waiting on some things with the seclusion rooms that you've heard about several times, kind of waiting on some back ordered padding. So previously we've reported on the smaller projects in the middle school, the renovations we're planning on doing. So now they're working on some things with that. I don't know, John, anything to add to any of that?
Yeah, it's kind of a quiet time right now. A lot of waiting for everything.
Yeah, there's not a lot new on that, and I'm conscious of that when we kind of put the same things in month after month, but some of these things are progressing at a snail's pace, and mostly because of things outside of our control. So.
Next is the district comprehensive mental health system update.
Yeah, this is in here just for information for you to try to keep you aware. Stacy Warren, whom we work closely with, is the regional lead at the AEA for school-based mental health, and she's really been working with us to get to the point where we have a comprehensive mental health system where we're really doing a lot of things in terms of taking care of the mental health needs for students, but we're also looking at training. We're looking at the different screenings we do, and then try to measure as we go along what are those data points that show how we're doing. And that's what she's put together. She does this a couple times a year, usually have one around semester time, one toward the end of the year. So you have some year-to-year comparisons there. Last year was really the first year that we got these numbers pulled together. So you see a very consistent number in the fall from last year to this year in terms of students we're serving. We did see more students last spring. Sometimes as we work with our local on-site therapist, sometimes it takes a month or more in the fall to kind of get up and running, for referrals to get made, for kids to get seen. So I don't think that's that unusual. I might predict that we'll have a higher number this coming spring also. And then you see the second bullet, that specifically is students who have had, beyond routine care, they've had kind of a mental health crisis, and a lower number this fall than last fall. Something that we've started tracking too is what we call ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. We know that has a tremendous impact on kids as they come to school. So we've started to try to do some screening with that and be able to quantify that. Another thing I think is important, staff lots of times is making the referral and has a kind of a ringside seat for what's going on with kids in the building. So they are surveyed, and you can see those next couple bullets there that 85% felt that the referral process was excellent or very good, 15% adequate. And then those who really were in the crisis situation, those teachers who knew those kids were in crisis, 100% felt that it was excellent or very good care. So, we're really interested. I'm really interested. This is one of the things as I moved the district, I just had a meeting with Stacey Warren recently, really interested in keeping positive momentum going in this area, continue to serve our kids well. The mental health grant we got is going to help do that, because it does provide some funds and gives us a way to support those providers that we cooperate with, as well as a way to pay for extra training and other opportunities that come up.
Or when will we need to approve that to keep going forward?
Yeah,
When will that be?
Typically there'll be a contract in July. We usually do that in July. I would recommend that would be. The contract might be able to be ready in June before I'm out of here. And assuming things continue to go well with the people we've been partnering with, we're talking with them as we go along. Okay. And other than one of the challenges that you see listed here, the providers are great, but like every other employer, they're having some workforce turnover, some shortages, which can be a big deal when you're talking about mental health. If you're constantly changing the therapist, that interrupts
This is
the care of the kids.
it's a career that the need has outdone the workforce.
Yeah.
Really, there's not enough workforce people specialize in mental health as there are people that need their services. So that in itself, as workforce catches up with the need, hopefully we won't see the turnover and all that, but that's just in what you're seeing in that occupation as a whole.
This is workforce outside of the school district.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah, these are the mental health providers that we partner with, their therapists. I've talked with John a little bit. I think in order to maximize the good of that grant funding and also to kind of solidify, what we're doing with these providers coming on site, I think it'd be a really good thing when this one-year contract is up this summer would be to do a multi-year, 2 or 3 year agreement, because we have a certain window to expend these funds during. The board, I really appreciate a couple of years ago, the board approved $25,000 to find these providers to support their work. And then this year we upped that just a little bit with the providers, but for the next, several 2 or 3 years, that's taken care of for the district, which is nice too.
And they're local.
Yes, all three are local.
So if they need to need to be seen in the summer or whatever, they're all within Indianola. So that was really important to all of us too, that it's all.
Is it something we can reapply for another grant?
I don't know, this is the Gear 2 grant, part of the governor's federal funds that were COVID related.
Okay.
Now, I will say the legislature continues to say that mental health is a priority, and there could well be grants in the future, and that's an area I would definitely encourage the district to keep looking for.
Or do you think we need, is this something where you start to budget these into?
Well, that's what we had done the 2 years leading up to this. So I do think that's as long as the board and the last 2 years you've had mental health as one of your priorities. Mm-hmm. As long as it stays important to the board, Jonna can work her magic and
what fund is that?
Set money aside.
It'd be general fund. It'd be the general fund.
It is general fund.
It's we let's say increase the at-risk funding. We use that up every year, so, but it would be general fund.
The other thing to preview a little bit, and you can see it's kind of highlighted here, you'll have a presentation next board meeting on equine therapy on February 8th, and that's a program that I'm going to recommend that we pilot with a few students this year. Again, we have the opportunity with grant funding here and would like to get that going with a half dozen students, a couple of hours a week, to have the opportunity to experience equine therapy. And partnering, again, with an area, Camp Wesley Woods, would be bringing this program there. And Kyla Banster, you see mentioned there, she's a retired counselor who is back doing some work for us in one of those COVID positions. I think you find it interesting, and I plan to have an agreement in the consent agenda next meeting, and then also have them here to present about it. So, it's good.
Also, we had some of our mental health providers that come in asked if there was any type of funding for like therapeutic modalities that they may need in the classroom for the certain students, whether they're certain chairs, certain desks, whether it's stuff for their hands, fidgets and stuff like that. So they kind of reached out to Art, and Art kind of has given the okay to be able to purchase exactly what they need, and they researched them a lot. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for allowing them, because sometimes it is those little tools that those therapists need to be a little bit more successful with those kids. So
And there was a small portion of this same grant, this $155,000 we got, we could spend up to $7,500 on basically infrastructure, things like that. So that we should be able to code some of those expenditures to this grant too. So it's the need for this kind of thing has probably never been greater. So it is nice that there are some resources. You heard Jonna talk about unfunded mandates earlier. It's nice to have some money behind the need. So we're definitely taking advantage of it.
Thanks, Art. Final thing here is the board calendar. That's for February. John, is there any way you could email us like the schedule that we have for Lyle for the search for March, just so we can all share it? I know there's a Saturday date.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure everybody's ready for that.
I'll email you what the final form, and then we'll add that to the calendar.
I think we're having a makeup HR committee meeting tomorrow. And then we have our inaugural policy, I know you're excited, inaugural policy committee for you two on Thursday, so.
You guys want me to come there just to calm your nerves?
Show you the ropes.
Invited Ken.
Invited Ken, there you
I'll
go.
make stuff then.
He probably would show up. He would.
He's an alumni.
Maybe tomorrow, 7 a.m. Oh, okay. Kind of a single mom right now, so trying to get my kids to.
And Ryan and Donna, I emailed a PDF of those policies. Do you need print copy or anything? Are you good? Or should have been attached to one of the. Yeah, and then there was one more that I added late.
I'd like a print copy though.
Okay, no problem. That's how I operate. I've got a print copy of my desk.
I'd like the print.
I'll make you one.
Cuddle up with your.
You like that too? Okay. I finally got like-minded people on my committee, Ben.
Hey, Ken always had a printed copy. I go with the digital.
And then the next board agenda is on page 52.
Mr. President, I will move to adjourn the meeting.
Motion made by Mac to adjourn. Seconded by Ryan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.